old boxcar.
Flying boxcar.
That was my dad's first jump, was out of that.
Is that right?
Yeah, 65 for him, so he's a year after you.
You were there in 64? Or
No.
oh,
Daddy was there in 65.
When were you there?
94.
Oh, yeah. I was starting to click. You couldn't be that old. Yeah, the instructor said the hardest thing about jumping a C-119 is getting it up to 1,200 feet. God, you talk about fear. I've never been so afraid in my life that first jump. Never. Gut-wrenching, knee-knocking fear.
I wasn't scared the first one. It was the second one I was
Is that
terrified.
right? That's
You know what to expect after that.
Most guys, their first jumps are the worst, and they get progressively easy. The courage fades over time, just like combat. If you're out of combat, I was never in it, but I read stories. And after you're out of it for a while and you got to go back, then you're real scared at first. So you were one of the few people I've ever run across that got more scared as they went along rather than less scared.
I'll tell you, I just didn't know what to expect that first time, so it was just a wild ride for the first trip through the door. But after that, I got, I guess, used to it, but at the same time, it's something you always think about.
Well, you visualize, everybody visualizes what a parachute drop or a parachute jump would be, and I did too before I made one. And what everyone fails to realize or visualize is the noise.
Yeah.
And
then the quiet. Then the lack of noise.
Yeah, but it's just when the noise and the wind. Most people, when they think of the parachute jumping, they think of just, jumping out, because you see it, it's not a sound picture. It doesn't have a hawk going, and it doesn't have that C-130 at drop speed of 125 knots, and so you're 135 miles an hour, it's about a Class 3 hurricane. You know what it is. And no one ever visualizes what that hawk is like. They open those jump doors, it pressurizes, every piece of nylon goes waving like that. So what do you want to talk about what?
Well, how old were you when you were in the military?
Just turned 17.
Just turned 17?
Got my first adult arrest. I was 17 in late November, and I got my first adult arrest. And the judge no prostate when I told him I was going in the Army. That's what the Army was like back then. They're doing it to the Army now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they waived before misdemeanor rules. They waived no felony rules. They're going right back to, they may have waived even a high school diploma. They're going right back where they were in the 60s, a bunch of kill-crazy psychos, man.
Cheap paid killers, man. That's what we all were.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I was in Bravo, a rifle company for a year before I went to Special Weapons, and the great majority of the guys in there were not high school graduates. One enlisted man had some college. He had 2 years of college.
Really?
And he was actually a U.S. that had volunteer airborne and then re-upped and became RA. Yeah, so he was a draftee. He was the one draftee in the company, and he was the one that had any college at all. That's what it was like back then. It was like the French Foreign Legion, You get out of going to court by saying you're going in the Army, So, yeah, I'd gotten a vacancy arrest. Childish done. Me and another guy was going into Vacaroa Castles, which is like Crystal, and this is in Florida, Miami-Dade, Dade County, Hialeah. And crystals are like Florida, and you knock and use the bathroom. We were going in the back and stealing food out of the back of it and then throwing it at cars. 17 years old, acting like a child. A gross of eggs, which is only about this big, a dozen eggs, is 144 eggs. You can
do all kinds of stuff with that.
Chocolate custard pie. Just walk out in the. I'm a sociopath, man. I'm like what they call an antisocial. That's the new name for it, an antisocial personality. In my day, it was called a sociopathic character disorder. That's what it was known as.
Really?
Yeah, you just walk out in the middle of a street, stand on the yellow line, 4-lane, like Hialeah Drive, Boulevard. Some people come along, you're standing right there in the middle on the yellow line, center line, and they're looking at you, and you're looking at them, and they're thinking, he's not going to throw that thing, is he? And you go, and it'll run like hell. Tons of fun, man. Idle youth, you know what I mean?
Well, Gary, like I said before, the reason we're here to talk to you, Meredith's been adjudicated.
Hey, I'll help you out on that case because we made a deal.
Yeah, we just want to shore up a few things. Yeah, I understood the FBI came to talk to you the other day.
On Thursday.
Yeah, we're not with them on anything. We're just basically wanting to give background on Gary Hilton, just finish up our case. The one thing that we got to get out of the way, due to the fact that you are in custody, is our policy that we go ahead and make sure that you still understand what your rights are.
Yeah, I understand.
Which is our policy. I know you understand what your rights are because you basically you basically quoted them to me anyway.
Yeah.
But you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any question if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Everything good with that?
Yeah.
Basically, the from the military, I understand that you met your first wife.
Yeah.
In the military. What was her name?
Ursula.
Ursula. Do what now?
Uschi, that's what they call Ursulas in Germany.
And you met her in Germany?
Mm-hmm.
She, how long were you guys married?
Just married in 98 and divorced in 71. I've been going with her since 65. She was 16 when I met her.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the worst mistake I ever made with her, running her off.
Really?
Gorgeous girl. I mean, truly gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, the best body, none finer I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
She had a body so good she'd be at the swimming pool, she'd be going to the ladies' room, and I've walked along behind her and seen a little boy just in trance walk behind her and follow right into the ladies' room. I mean, she was stunning.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, she was a good German housefrau. Her father was a police Hauptmeister, the highest in nursing rank, first sergeant.
That's like a chief, right?
Hauptmeister. He was enlisted, though, not an officer. That would be Hauptmann, that would, I guess. No, Hauptmeister. Highest enlisted rank, he was a police officer. She had an older sister that had already married GI 5, so that kind of smoothed the way for me. Right. But at any rate, she was gorgeous. A fine girl brought up by a police officer, fine German housefrau, kept a spotless house, meals ready. Only wanted to do what I wanted to do. And not only that, she had her training was as a draftsman. In Germany, they start them at about 15 into an apprenticeship program where they go high school half the day and learn a trade or a vocation the other half. Whether you're going to be a waitress or whatever you're going to be, it's called learning, a learner, an apprentice. So her apprenticeship was as a draftsman. There was no computer-assisted drafting back then. None. No CAD.
That was when they hand drew everything, didn't they?
Everything. Hand drew, hand lettered, everything.
Even all the symbols or like...
the whole imagine a blueprint or, a blueprint. Everything, every single thing hand drawn. Sure, it was drafting. It was what a draftsman was. So it's a high-paying trade, and it was hard to learn, very demanding and difficult. And, of course, right up a German's alley because it demanded precision.
Very meticulous.
Yeah, that's what it demanded. Yeah, just total meticulousness. And patience, and Germans are whatever. Anyway, the point is she came over after I married her, I brought her over. She immediately proceeded to get a job. Leslie Lumber Company. My mother worked there, so that was an end. Got a job with them in the truss company, drawing trusses. They made trusses to order for buildings, and everyone had to be drawn, that kind of thing.
So you actually brought her back to
Yeah, I married her, and after I'd been going with her a couple of years, I married her shortly before I left for the States, so that would put her in line for a visa. So I married her, got her visa working. Back then, visas were damn hard to get. Probably still are for Germans.
Right.
And got her working on her visa, and now she was my spouse, so, bam, she had. And then at that time, I left, went back and stayed briefly with my parents, rented an apartment, or actually it was a guest house on a property on the Biscayne River, 125 a month, sort of catty-cornered across from my mother and stepfather's house. And about 2 or 3 months later, then she came over. Okay. And then I worked another couple of months until December, and quit and entered Miami-Dade Junior College, flying, going career pilot program, using my GI Bill. Back then, maybe they still will, pay 90% of your, after private pilot, you had to get your private pilot license. Back then, a private pilot license cost $900. You can get a Cessna C-150s dry for $11 an hour, dual with an instructor for $14 an hour.
That's crazy.
Oh my God, I'm not telling what it costs. Anyway, so would pay 90%. VA would pay 90% of your flight costs.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, and the tuition was $150 a semester because it was a community college.
So you actually went through the training?
Yeah, I got the degree and I got the commercial ticket with a multi-engine and instrument rating, and I got a certificated flight instructor instrument ticket also.
Really?
Instrument thing?
CFII, CFII, certificated flight instructor instrument, fixed wing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of guys that are instrument rated even nowadays.
No, well, the instrument rating then was an additional 40 hours, as much as it takes to get a private ticket.
Yeah.
Private ticket was 40 hours approved.
I'm sorry, did you say you got commercial too?
Yeah.
Rated as, okay.
Oh, yeah, commercial with a multi and instrument, and then instrument instructor.
Have you kept up with that, or?
No, I've never flown since.
Oh, okay. You just got it and just.
Got it, and what got me off of that is that I worked 15 hours a week as a student assistant at the college. It was a Mack Hilton. It was in the audio visual department.
Right.
At that time, Miami-Dade Junior College North Campus was the largest in the nation, 27,000 students on out of that one campus. Maybe still is.
Right.
And as a result, the audio visual department wasn't just a bunch of old 16-millimeter projectors. We're talking about production studios, TV, movie production studios, on-staff artists, on-staff announcers. We could make our own slide presentations and everything with our artists. Announcers could narrate them. We had a closed-circuit TV system in '67.
Really?
So, yeah, using like the old 1 or 2 inch tape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we had what we call a film train where we could project movies into a TV camera and show them over closed circuit. Nobody had that. There was no such thing as a VCR or VTR then, videotape recorder.
Right.
Back then. They were, but it was commercial only. There were the big decks,
Big
decks with either 1 or 2 inch tape. I forgot what it was. Yeah, way cutting edge, totally cutting edge. And so it was a big operation. The distribution center, which did every kind of presentation, handled every kind of in-class presentation, from slides to putting a TV set in for closed circuit to actually a movie, pushing a projection. We did over 200 runs a day out of our distribution center. In other words, in-class, over 200 a day, so that kind of thing. It was a real operation. I worked for, in other words, they'd have about 30 student assistants per shift, just working in the distribution center with 2 staff members supervising them, that kind of thing. So anyway, I worked as a student assistant for 15 hours a week doing my whole time. When I graduated, they offered me a staff job, good pay, $3.25 an hour. That's what UPS drivers started at then, which is the equivalent of $15 an hour. Now,
So
that was starting.
So you went to work there?
Yeah, I went to work there for in '70 until late '71, and they fired me. Absenteeism, taking quit leave.
Really?
Like I said, I ran that girl off. You know why?
Is that about the time you and her split?
Yeah.
Okay.
Within 4 months after we were divorced, I ran her off. I decided, here we got a beautiful girl, made even at that time 25-30% more money than I did even on my good paying staff job. In other words, she made the equivalent of $20 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good grief. Right, perfect house, squeaky clean, you could eat off the damn floor, meals ready, work to boot, gorgeous girl, and really only wanted to do what I wanted to do. And if I didn't want to do anything, she wouldn't like it, but she'd do it. If I wanted to sit around and smoke pot or something, she didn't do any drugs, didn't drink. I was a pothead, of course, by then. And everybody, we could smoke on campus. The staff would go into the air conditioning room, which was a room bigger than this, with an air conditioning unit taking up most of it, and take some student assistants there, and we'd go in there and smoke. We had the Film Society where we showed avant-garde films every Thursday night, Jean-Luc Godard films and Ingmar Bergman films and that kind of thing. And the whole auditorium would be lighting up. And finally the cops got wind of it and came in and busted 27 people. That was the end of the Film Society. But that was it back then. Drugs back then had not been demonized.
Right.
They were demonized very effectively under Reagan.
Right.
And he finally got that Omnibus Federal Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 in, which gave draconian penalties for drugs. That was in '86. So you end up with a Macon housewife importing a kilo of coke with 2 other people, and one of them had a firearm in their house when they was arrested. They had to add that up. The Macon housewife got 30 years no parole and is serving it right now. Yeah. That's your demonization of drugs right there.
Well, you say you got fired from that job for absenteeism because you were taking quaaludes.
Yeah, and barbiturates. Within 3 months, that was 4, maybe 5 months after our divorce was.
So how many years total were you married to her?
From 68, summer of 68 to summer of 71.
Summer of 71, so 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you break it off with her, or did...
I ran her off. Oh, you know why I ran her off? I'm telling you all these qualities she had. Well, remember now, this is a cultural revolution. It's really hitting home. By 1970, everyone was in effect doing the 60s. You know what I mean?
Caught up to it?
Yeah, the really hip people in California were doing the 60s in the early 60s. They were taking acid while it was still legal, in 63, 2, 1, and so forth. They were really doing the 60s, the diggers, the free food distribution, the real hippies. And by 1970, now, the masses, including me, were doing the 60s. So I was doing the 60s and the 70s.
Well, the Army took away from that, too, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. I did a flip from being gung-ho to being, a liberal, down to the establishment. But anyway, we had the Cultural Revolution going on. And I was in college, and even though I wasn't on the teaching staff, it was in a sense the same status almost as being on, you were staff.
You had the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah. Air conditioning wasn't a blue-collar job, nothing else. It was white shirt and tie and running a learning center or running a distribution center or this and that, supervising 30 student assistants, that kind of thing. Air conditioned, intellectual, that kind of academic atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
And my gripe against her was that she was just empty-headed and didn't have a thought in the world, and she was not sophisticated enough and not intellectual enough. You talk about stupid. Women today have too many thoughts. They have too, you know what I mean? If you could find a woman that's just simple and plain and whatever you want, honey, and here's your food, and I got the house clean, and I'm good looking to boot, and I make more money than you, well, my God.